I know. Good evening. Today we're learning Maseches Kesubos, Daf Hey. We're starting 2 lines from the bottom on Daled Amud Beis. We had learned a brisa yesterday trying to figure out what type of ones would move the takana derabanan of getting married on a Wednesday back to getting married on a Monday. And we highlighted this unfortunate case where a chassan's father died or where a kala's mother died. And within the brisas that we learned, we also learned the following, which we're going to analyze now. 2 lines from the bottom. Omar Mar, Ben kachu, ben kach lo yivolo be'erev Shabbos, v'motzei Shabbos. Here, erev Shabbos doesn't mean during the daytime and erev Shabbos. It means that they cannot have tashmish shemitah for the first time on Friday night and as well on Saturday night. Now, the obvious question is going to be asked by the Gemara, Bishlama be'erev Shabbos mishum chabura. We understand that on Friday night, it shouldn't be the first time that the couple's together, because the first time that a couple is together, that she has tashmish shemitah, it's a chabura and it creates bleeding. We'll see that that's a big discussion in the Amoraim by the end of today's sugya. So, but at least for the Havamina right now, we understand that they should not have tashmish on Friday night. Motzei Shabbos on my low. What's that? Saturday night? Let's let them get married on Saturday night.
Same issue as Wednesday.
What?
Same reason why you get married Wednesday night. Doesn't sit.
So the Gemara doesn't say your answer, but the Gemara says Amar Reb Zera mishum cheshbonos. It says that we're concerned about people spending time on Shabbos doing mathematical equations. An important halachic Rashi. Rashi says, top of the page, if they get married on Saturday night, then Saturday night will be the Suda. Then he's got how much is it going to cost me? How much is it per plate? And how much does the cutting cost? And all the different cheshbonos. And then Rashi quotes the Isser Derabanan Daber Davar, a famed pasuk from Yeshaya, that we know references our limitations. We're not supposed to be speaking about these things on Shabbos. So therefore, one should never get married on a Motzei Shabbos, but not because of Tashmish Amita, but because of cheshbon. It's Mutter, Tashmish, it's not Shabbos anymore, but rather because a person might violate the rabbinic injunction against doing dollars and cents math equations on Shabbos. Says it,
about not getting married on Friday.
This is talking about getting married Saturday night.
No, but a minute before we said because they couldn't be together Friday.
We have to wait till the end of today's daf and really see tomorrow's daf to answer that question. It's not lemais anyways, but yeah, we don't. I believe the halacha is that we don't do that. But let's get to tomorrow's Gemara first. But the Gemara says that the concern that we have about cheshbonos over here is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And the Gemara is going to throw 6 or 7 different arguments as to why that doesn't make sense. Amarle abai the cheshbonos shel mitzvah mi asiri. You're not allowed to make a financial cheshbon on Shabbos of things that are for a mitzvah. After all, number 1, if it's a mitzvah, it's mutter to think about the math. Number 2, you're allowed to commit financial funds. Rabbi Friedman has spoken about this back in the day. You're allowed to do fundraising on Shabbos. We do geshem, whatever you're allowed to. No problem at all. Number 3, remember Rabbi Elazar poskin. Oh, I did that one. That was 2. What was it? That was 2. Number 3, Rabbi Yaakov. Amar Rav Yochanan holchin lebate knesses bate midrashos levakech al iske rabin b'Shabbos. And an emergency comes up. What are we going to do? You're allowed to talk money if there's an urgent matter on Shabbos. Number 4, Amar Rav Yaakov bar Idi Amar Rav Yochanan mefakchen pikuach nefesh b'Shabbos. You're allowed to, obviously that's super clear. This case is not a good raya. Pikuach nefesh, you can be mechal Shabbos for sure. But either way, the Gemara says we're allowed to do math for that. And number 5, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni Amar Rav Yonasan holchin letartios ulekarkios lefakech al iske rabin b'Shabbos. You can go into the theaters and into the major marketplaces in order to debate things that need to be taken care of in the community. And as well, the Tana de Rabbi Nasim because they are Shabbos, you're allowed to speak shidduchim with the Machatanim about getting engaged. You're also allowed to talk about getting a child into school and getting him an umnas. All that is mutter. So how can you say that there's a problem getting married on Motzei Shabbos because you're concerned about the food? You're concerned about the making a cheshbon about, it's $100 a plate and I'm inviting 250 guests and the carving stations are $500 a piece and all that. It's an open bar. No, it's mutter. Completely mutter. So therefore, that's not the problem. Ella, answer number 2, quarter of the way down. Ella Amar Reb Zera, Gzera Shema Yishchod Ben Of. Very, very practical concern. We're afraid that you're going to be Machal Shabbos and you're going to start Shchita a few minutes before Tzeis HaKochavim. You're in a rush. So you decide, I just can't help myself, and you can do Shchita. Unbelievable concern. It's not something that we're used to hearing. So that is what the Gemara's concern is. And the Gemara says, if that's true, and listen to this case, it's a fascinating response. If it's true that you're concerned about the Motzei Shabbos because you're going to possibly do Shchita while it's still Shabbos, well, what about another scenario that's similar? What about a case of Yom Kippurim Shechalios B'Sheni B'Shabbos? Yom Kippur is supposed to be on a Monday. What then is the din about Sunday? You need to fres. That's the din. Called Ochel b'tshi kilu tzam ba'asiri. Anyone who eats on the ninth day, there's a mitzvah to eat, according to some Din Doraisa. There's a mitzvah to eat on the ninth day. So then maybe Yidche, we should push off Yom Kippur, Gzer Hashem Yishchot Benov. How do you push off Yom Kippur? We don't push off Yom Kippur. Obviously, we don't push off Yom Kippur. It's on top of Shabbos, everything. So it doesn't mean we push it off to the 11th. What it means is that when they're being mechadesh the chodesh that much, when they're doing kiddush chodesh, so the chacham have some latitude. 1 day, 2 days, they find a way to push it off. That's what it means by yidche. It doesn't mean that we do it on the 11th. We mess around with Rosh Chodesh to make sure that it doesn't fall out on a Monday, so that the Sunday doesn't become that day where we're stressed and you might be machal Shabbos. By the way, it's a terrible idea to be machal Shabbos, Erev Yom Kippur, to eat on the night. It's not a good idea. The concern is a little outlandish in a way, and the Gemara actually rejects this. Says the Gemara, that's not a real concern. And even if Yom Kippur fell out on a Monday and the day to eat was the 9th of Tishrei on a Sunday, we're not concerned. Hasam delanafshe lo tarid. When it comes to Yom Kippur, the guy has to eat himself. He's not stressed. He's one mouth that he has to feed. Al shecht afterwards. No problem at all. And hacha, by the wedding, the acherim tarid. There we're concerned. You have to feed so many other people. There we may have more v'yetzer hearts been muchal Shabbos. Inami, another possible answer is Hasam isle revacha. By Yom Kippur, you don't have to eat the whole meal Saturday night. You have 24 hours to eat from Motzei Shabbos. You have so much more time. You say Ravacha, you have time. But Hacha, by the wedding, less le Ravacha, the wedding is that night. You have from the time of Tzeisa Kochavim until, I don't know, an hour later. You got to shech, you got to cook, you have to salt. It's very busy. So much bigger Yetzer Hara over there. It says the Gemara, a very complex line, one that is dealt with in the Mefarshim. Now that you've come up with this conclusion, Erev Shabbos Naming Gzer Shem Yishchot Benov. Now that you've mentioned the concern about shechting an animal in its wrong time, says the Gemara, we should have the same concern on Friday nights, and that maybe one will be Machal Shabbos as well. So the Mefarshim here are trying to say, are you uprooting the initial concerns that we had about Bia on Friday night? So there's like a little bit of an opening here to say is that maybe we're really not so concerned about Tashmish Hamita on Friday night, because the Gemara says if you're concerned on Saturday night about shechting a benov, maybe we should be concerned about Friday night as well. And it's not clear from the Gemara what the opinion is about Tashmish Hamita on Friday night. So to text this question, we're already seeing that there is already a break in the assumption that it's absolutely usher, and we'll see that there's a machlokas Rav and Shmuel about this. The Gemara is bothered by the following question. Besula nises beravi, that we know. The minhag, as mentioned on Daf Beis and Kesubos, is that a woman who's a besula should get married on a Wednesday. But should it be that she's viniv elas beravi, that during the day, on Wednesday, during the day, before, not Wednesday night, which is really Thursday, but Wednesday during the day, they'd be together. And still, if he were to find that she was not a besula, velo chayshina liikrure daita, and we're not so concerned. So let's say they get married at 10 a.m. And they're together at 2 p.m. So let's say at 2 p.m. he finds out that she's not a besula. So are we afraid are we not afraid that he's going to lose his anger or concern, halachic concern about what happened by tomorrow morning when it's Bezdin Thursday morning? Or says the Gemara, here's really the shaila. If a woman gets married on a Wednesday, do they have to wait to have Tashmish Hamita until Wednesday night? What's the nafkamina between Wednesday day and Wednesday night? Well, between Wednesday day and Thursday morning when the Bezdin opens, maybe he'll forgive her, or whatever the case is, maybe it won't bother him quite as much, but that's a big problem. As mentioned, one of the reasons why we're waiting for Bezdin is because if in fact she has lost her Basulim once she was halachically engaged, then she cannot be with her husband anymore. That's us. Or we need him to go to Bezdin. So is she allowed to be intimate on Wednesday during the day as opposed to Wednesday night, which is halachic Thursday? And the Gemara presents Tashma, Detani Bar Kapar. Let's remember his name. It's going to come up again. Titani Bar Kapara, halfway down on Hayamid Aleph, Besula Nises Biravi and Viniv Elas Bechamishi. Yes, she should have Tashmish only Wednesday night. Hoel Vanam Rabo Bracha Dagim, because on Wednesday nights, which is really Thursday, there's a bracha for dagim. What's the bracha for dagim? Rashi, a third of the way down, Dibra Maskal bracha ledagim, Peru orvu umuas hamayim, a pasuk in Breshis, and there, because there's a bracha of dagim, which is for Peru orvu, she should dafka not have tashmish hamita during the day on Wednesday, but only once it's halachically Thursday, which is Wednesday night, and that's the appropriate time to be together. And by an almana, we don't have to worry about bezdin because she's already been intimate before, so we don't have to worry about Mondays and Thursdays. She's getting married on a Thursday, and she should only have tashmish hamita after it's dark on Thursday night. And what's the diuk from this brisa of Bar Kapara? Taima, the reason why the besula should only have tashmish hamita once it's nighttime on Wednesday is mishum bracha, because that's when the bracha of dagim is triggered, and that's ideal. What's implied from there is that we're not so concerned that if he were to have Tashmish Hamita at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, that he would lose his passion to go to Beis Din Thursday morning. We're not concerned about that. Says the Gemara, if that's true, Almana Nami Tibail Bechamishi Ho Venem Rabo Bracha L'Dagim. Maybe she should have Tashmish Hamita on Thursday during the day, just like we wanted the Besula to have on Wednesday night, which is the day 5, and that is the bracha of Dagim. Says the Gemara, no, bracha da Adam Adifa. By the day of the Almana, she has the bracha of Adam. Rashi quotes the pasuk, Purva Mulasa Aretz. That's a bracha by human beings. Why don't we do that bracha for Besula? Because of Beis Din. We don't have a choice. She can't be together with him on Thursday when Beis Din meets in the morning. So she has to do Wednesday. And Nebach, the bracha for Dagim is less good than the bracha for Adam. We don't have a choice. Because we're concerned of finding out that Lo Nimtzeis Besulim, that there was no Besulim, he has to go to Beis Din, therefore she can only get married, the Almana, on a Wednesday. The inami, there's another possibility in regards to the almana. Maybe it's not because that the bracha of Adam is adifa. The inami mishum shaktu, a different form of shaktu. Shaktu, as mentioned in the beginning of the Gemara on Daf Beis, was that the chachamim were sensitive about something. To Tanya, why is it that we say that an almana, a woman who's been married before, should get married on a Thursday but only have tashmish on Thursday night once it's dark out? If we say that she were to have that she should have tashmish during the day on Thursday and not Thursday night, then if they have tashmish that early, then the husband will go to work the next day, and that would not have been the case if they would have had tashmish on Thursday night. Shaktu chachamim, they were sensitive about takanas benos Yisrael. She was samechi mashlosh yamim, that at least an almana should be home. The alman, the husband who married the almana should be home for 3 days. Chamishi b'Shabbos, which is the day they get married. Ve'erev Shabbos v'Shabbos. So what's the difference, says the Gemara, between the answers of Ma'ika ben Bracha l'Shaktu? What is the difference between the answer that says that Alamana should have Tashmish Hamita only on Thursday night because of the Bracha of Adam, versus the answer of Shaktu that we want the husband home for 3 days? Okay, Gemara gives 2 answers. The nafkamina would be Ika b'naihu Adam batel. The nafkamina would be if a person doesn't have a job. If this man doesn't have a job, then they can have Tashmish Hamita during the day on Thursday, because he's not going to work on Friday no matter what. So it doesn't matter what time they have Tashmish on Thursday. Inami Yom Tov Shechalios Erev Shabbos. If Friday is a Yontif, that's also not a concern because he's definitely not going to work that day because it's Yontif. Fine. We had mentioned Bar Kapara. That's why this Gemara interjects with a seemingly random agarata from Bar Kapara. Says the Gemara, Darsh Bar Kapara, Gedolim Maisa Tzadikim Yoser Maisa Shemayim V'Aretz. Greater are the actions of the righteous, more so than the creation of the heavens and the earth. Dilu b'maisa shemayim va'aretz. When it comes to the creation of the earth, what does the pasuk say? Ksiv. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya as well. Af yadi yaseda eretz v'mini tipcha shamayim. He says, my hand in the singular, yadi, yasta aretz, it created a foundation for earth. V'mini, my right hand, tipcha shamayim, it spread out the heavens. So it says by HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating shamayim va'aretz that it was in the singular of yadi. V'ilu b'maisa yadeim shel tzadikim, first of the long lines. When it comes to the actions of tzadikim, the pasuk speaks about a hand in the plural form. Ksiv, what does the pasuk say? Machon l'shivtecha ba'at Hashem mikdash, Hashem konenu Yadecha, not Yadcha, but Yadecha. So we see that when it comes to the creation of Shemayim V'Aretz, it refers to one Yad of Hashem. When it comes to Ma'aseh Tzadikim, it refers to Yadecha, 2 hands. So we see that Gdola Ma'aseh Tzadikim mi Ma'aseh Shemayim V'Aretz. Says the Gemara, not such a good argument. Heishiv Bavli Echad. There was one Babylonian Amora who spoke about this. He responded. Who was this person? V'Rab Chia Shemo. It's just an interesting presentation. We don't usually see that so often. That's what the Gemara says. Feel free to look in the Mefarshim. And the Gemara says, V'yabeshes Yadav Yatzaru, that they created the dry land, Yadav, his hands, Yatzaru, referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We wanted to say that tzaddikim were greater because they had 2 hands, Hashem only had 1. This pasuk seems to say that Hashem was using 2 hands, Yadav, Yatzaru. The Gemara says, no, you're right, it's read Yadav, but Yado, Ksiv, it's written, the way it's written, the Ksiv is written in the singular, so therefore not a good raya. Yeah, what about the last word? V'aksiv, Yatzaru, their hands, his hands in the plural, Yatzaru, his hands, says the Gemara. You're right that the word Yatzaru is plural, but it wasn't talking about hands. It's talking about fingers. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak, Yatzar etz be'osav, one hand, multiple fingers on one hand. Still with the premise of Bar Kapara, that the Maaseh Tzadikim are greater than Maaseh Shemayim v'aretz. Kidechsiv, as the pasuk says, Ki er'eh shamecha ma'aseh etz be'osecha yirech v'chol chavim asher konata. That you can see Shamecha ma'aseh etz be'osecha made of your fingers. Yirech v'chol chavim asher konata. That you had established the moon and the stars, and this pasuk seems to say, yes, very clearly, we're talking about fingers and not hands. Again, our standing assumption of Bar Kapara is correct, that Maaseh Tzadikim are greater than Maaseh Shemayim v'aretz. Meisvei, famous pasuk, Hashamayim misaprim quote kel umaaseh yodov magid harakia. What does the pasuk say? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the Shamayim speaks, it's misaprim kavod kel. It speaks of the honor of Hashem. Umaaseh yodov, and the work of his hands, magid harakia, that the heavens speak about the work of his hands. Who is it talking about? Seemingly from the pasuk, it's talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Gemara, you've misunderstood the pasuk. Hachi kamar, this is the right way to understand the pasuk. Hachi kamar, ma'aseh yadeim shel tzadikim mimagid harakia. Who does the rakia speak about? Their hands, about the tzadikim? It's the tzadikim, and it's not talking. The pasuk's not talking about Hashem. Umaynihu. What is the masterful work of the tzadikim? Matar. Because when the tzadikim daven, they're able to bring about rain. Famous story, Avinu Malkeinu with Rabbi Akiva. Another time. That's what the Gemara says over here. Is that we see that it's still talking about the tzaddikim, and therefore we conclude this section of the Gemara that really the Maaseh tzaddikim are greater than the Maaseh Shemayim v'aretz of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a really wild idea, that there are people down here who can do things that are gedolim, that are seemingly greater than the creation of the world. That's all back to the famed medrash that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets a complaint from the angels. How dare you? How could you give the Torah to a ben adam? Because people, they get to make choices. You don't get to make a choice. When I was in a kiruv training program, one of the speakers said that when you're dealing with someone who says, I don't want to keep Shabbos, I don't want to keep kashrus, so this Rebbe used to say, give aldik, finally. You can actually make a choice in your life. You're not a puppet. You get to decide which one do you want to do. So it was a little spin on a person saying they have a heart tonight. Great, you're wonderful, you're normal. Welcome to the club. We all have to decide things that we want to do, and hopefully we'll do the right thing. But you're the one making the choice. At the end of the day, we got to give the latitude to people to make errors and make mistakes. We have to work on ourselves. And when we're trying to teach others, whether it be friends or family, it doesn't matter. There has to be a degree of latitude, because that's where the healthy decisions are made. They're made only when we have another option. Next statement of Bar Kapara, Darsh Bar Kapara, that there should be a peg of some kind on your ear. Al tikri oznecha, ela al oznecha, something on your ear. She'im yishama al adam davar she'ena hagun, that if a person hears something that isn't befitting the ears of a ben Torah, turning to the top of Ham and Beis, yaniach etzba'o be'oznav. I'm sorry, I don't want to listen to you. It's cool, not the coolest thing in the world, but it is what the Gemara says is one of the reasons why we have fingers that actually fit in our ears. Why are our hands shaped like pegs? Why do they fit so perfectly in our ears? And if you want to say my taima ilema mishum de mechalka, just because we don't have webbed feet, but therefore they look like pegs, says the Gemara, that's ridiculous. Everybody knows that every finger on the hand has a purpose. Damar mar zo zeres, the pinky is used to measure the choshen. Zo kmitza is used to, the kmitza is the ring finger, that's used as part of the kmitza for grasping flour. Zo amma, the middle finger, is used to measure an amma from the bottom of the elbow to the top of the middle finger. And what's the next one? Zo etzba, that's the finger that does zrikas hadam. And then lastly, zo godel, the godel was for a case of mitzorah. Bohen yado hayamanis, bohen raglo hayamanis. All of the fingers have a purpose. So the fact that our hands are mechalkan, that all the fingers are separated, that can't be what we're talking. That has another reason why they're separated. Why is our hand in this shape? They could have been circular, they could have been rectangular, they could have been any other shape. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make our hands like this? And the idea is repeated yet again. Amar Ella matam mishupos kiyasedos. Why are they tapered like pegs? Shem adam davar shenohagun yaniach etzba'osav be'oznav. Same exact idea. Tana debei Rabbi Shmuel. Another thing about ears that's unique. Most of the ear is made of cartilage. The very top parts of our ear are cartilage. Like it's relatively kashe. The alia, and the tail is raka, not the tail, but the lobe is quite soft. So it says the Gemara, Shivishama Adam Davar She'eno Hagun, Yikof Eleha Lesocha. You take the bottom of your ear and you fold it into your ear. My earlobes are like attached. I can't do that. But for people who have like real ones, they can fold them up and stick them in and leave them there. I'm not one of those people, but that's what the Gemara says, is that we're supposed to be careful with what goes into our ears. I just heard a Maaseh yesterday from Reb Shlomi Neuberger that I can't remember the name of the Rav he told me. Such a great Maisa. He said in the 60s, someone walked into a house to be miyayitz with the family, and he walked in, and there was like a 60s gunslinging type of show on black and white TVs back in the day. And the Rav, his eyes for the first time saw someone killed on television, fainted, hit the floor on the spot. Because every time we hear something, every time we see something, it leaves a roshem one way or the other. It leaves a roshem. There's no way to unsee or to unhear. And we live in a crazy world. Forget about the 60s. I mean, they had their problems, but I don't think it compares to the cell phones in our pockets and to all this, all the influences that are around us. But that's the Gemara. It's giving a general yesod that we should be careful about what we hear. Tana Rabbanan. The Brisa continues, Al Yashmiya Adam La'ozam Dvarim B'Telim, Mipnei Shehem Nichlas Tchila Le'Evarim. It's the first part of the body to burn. There's no real skeleton, and therefore it's the first to go, God forbid, in a fire. I don't know why they talk about burning yourself down, but that's what the Gemara seems to say, is they burn first. Let's get into the sugya of whether or not it's mutter for a couple to have tashmish mita for the first time on a Friday night or on Shabbos. There's going to be two versions to these sets of questions. They're quite similar. There are only subtle differences between them. And if you pay attention, you'll catch them. And here is version number one of our set of questions. Mahu livel b'tchila b'Shabbos. Do we say the dam mifkad paki, the fact that there will be blood from the tashmish amita is because the blood is basically just sitting there? Oh, chibure michbar, or is that happening because there's actually a wound that's taking place? There's actually skin that's tearing. And even if you want to seem to say that it's mutter because the blood is simply collected there, the dam hu tzarich v'shari, the dam is just a gilui that tashmish happened. No, it's not the dam that we need. It's the psicha of that osam makom, and the tearing of the skin is part and parcel of the aser. Therefore, tzarich the aser, and it should be aser. The dam hu tzarich, that it's really only about the blood, that's a gilui that tashmish happened, and tzarich, and upesach memelach asi, and only in passing is there skin that actually opens. So then we have to ask another question: halacha krib shimon damar davar shen miskaven mutter, or halacha krib Yehuda damar davar shen miskaven aser. We're giving a nice throwback to Maseches Shabbos, the classical machlokes that we have between Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda about davar sheni miskaven. Your kavanah is not about the basulim itself. It's only about the dam. It happens to be derech agav that the basulim can break. The imtim salomar halacha Reb Yehuda lechumra, but that we hold davar sheni miskaven is aser. But this is it really davar sheni miskaven? This is mekalkel. You're destroying something. You're not fixing something. Mekalkel hu eitz ala pesach or metakin hu eitz ala pesach. Is tashmish amita and the breaking of the basulim considered to be mekalkel, which is destruction, which is therefore mutter, or would it be metakin that you're actually fixing the body, and therefore that should be aser even according to Reb Yehuda? All of this is version number one of the questions, and let's see another flow of questions in a similar vein. Taking a more stringent line. The others, when we first asked these questions, it took a strict line of all of the v'im tim salomars. This set of v'im tim salomars is stricter. So v'im tim salomar dam chabure michbar, that the tashmish amita leads to a chabura, then ledam hu tzarich v'aser, odilma lahanoas atzmo hu tzarich v'shari. Then maybe we should say, do we need the blood? That's a gilui that there was a chabura, and therefore the tashmish is aser. Or Dilma, no, ikran shel dvarim is that there's hana for him in the tashmish amita, and therefore it should be mutter because it's not about the breaking of the basulim. If you want to say lakula that it's only about him and not about the chabura, the dam emelak asi, the blood happens on its own. Do we say halacha kreb Yehuda that davar sheni miskaven is aser, or halacha kreb Shimon that davar sheni miskaven is mutter? Which one? And afilu v'im tim salomar halacha kreb Yehuda. Do we say strictly like Rabbi Yehuda, but maybe this is different because maybe this is mekalkel bechabura and it should be mutter, or metakin bechabura who, or it's actually fixing something and it would be aser. Even if you want to say that it's mutter because it's just mekalkel, you're not trying to fix anything, you're actually damaging a part of the body. Who then do we say the mekalkel halacha kreb Yehuda? Oh, halacha kireb Shimon. So all of these different iterations. The basic simple question is it mutter for there to be tashmish amita on Friday night, with these two sophisticated approaches as to how to ask the question. And the Gemara says, and we're going to conclude with these two lines, and then we'll pick up with the sugya tomorrow. Bebei Rav Amre, in the base medrash of Rav, what did they say? Rav Shari v'Shmuel Asar. In the location of Rav says that it's mutter for there to be tashmish amita, and Shmuel said that it's aser. But Benaharda, which was the place of Shmuel, Rashi says, Benaharda, in the base medrash of Shmuel, they said the opposite. Amri, that Rav was the one who said asar, and Shmuel was the one who said shari. How do we remember Who said what? It's very simple. In the place in which you live, you're Mekel. If you're a Shmuelnik and you're in Naharda, Shmuel was the lenient one. If you're by Rav, then Rav was the one that was going to be lenient in his town. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'simanech elu mekilin la'atzman ve'elu mekilin la'atzman. Each one in their own locale seemed to hold that their Rebbe was Mekel and the other Rav was Machmir. That's fascinating to start with. What was the truth? We don't even know what happened yet. So this is all part and parcel of the machlokas. We're going to stop right here. We'll pick up 4 lines down on Vav Amud Aleph tomorrow night. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
Go ahead.